All right, everybody. Meteorologist Jack Griffin here in with some more severe weather information. I'm going to just step on the screen here momentarily. We've got a new tornado warning that we have issued again on the western side of our viewing area. This one is for Morgan County until 3:15 p.m. I've got some additional information on it that I'll read off for it. We've got weather spotters that have actually confirmed this tornado, and the reason why you can tell that is we have, instead of the red box, it's kind of this pinkish purple box there, which means that we've actually seen a tornado confirmed on the ground. We've had trained storm spotters who have been able to see that, and they have determined that there was one that actually did touch down. Technically, this actually occurred a little south of our viewing area, but it is now moved into just enough of Morgan County to where we now have our warning in the viewing area. Again, this does go until 3:15. It's moving relatively slower compared to the rest of the storms that we've had out there. It's around 35 miles an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a track on it here really quickly and just kind of give you a little bit of a wider view here. We've got Springfield over to the east. New Berlin is right here, and there's a Sangamon County line just outside of that area there. So again, this is Morgan County until 3:15. Like I said, I'll put a track on it. And with these storms, they are relatively small and compact, so we'll put it right there from the center of it. Going to the northeast about, like I said, 30 to 35 miles an hour. So we'd be looking at potentially arrival time of 3:05 in Clements, 3:11 in Pisgah, 3:16 in Arnold, 3:20 in Alexander, Prentice at 3:33, Ashland at 3:38, Claysville at 3:40, Tallulah 3:46, Panther Creek 3:49, and then 3:56 potentially in Petersburg if it holds on together for that long. One thing we have noticed with a lot of these storms is that they kind of pulse up pretty quickly and then they weaken pretty quickly too. And they're also moving pretty quick, like I said, too. And so a lot of times they'll actually leave the warning box before the warning is actually done. So for example, this one, like I said, goes until 3:15. There's a possibility here that it actually moves out of here before that's even done. And then we'd maybe get a, let's say, for example, a new warning box or maybe just a discontinuation of it. But these have been moving fast enough to where they have actually left the warning box before the warning is done. This one goes for the next 14 minutes, and we'll see if we get another warning tacked on top of that one. And that still is our only warning that we have out there. We had a warning a little earlier this afternoon, but that was just one and done. And so we'll have to wait and see how these end up going, because what you're going to notice is that this line of storms, and I'm going to zoom out here, this line of storms is not the only thing that's in town. We actually have more in the way of some stronger storms that have developed on the eastern side of our viewing area too. So essentially the far eastern row, or the column of counties here, has a little bit more in the way of some stronger storms. We'll turn the lightning on with those, and you've got a little bit more in the way of some lightning essentially from south of Highway 36. So pretty much Newman and just off to the southwest of Chrisman, kind of from here on down is where we have a lot of those heavier rain showers. So Brockton, Garland, Oakland, Ashmore, we've got Martinsville, Marshall, Anderson, just going down the list here. So these storms have no warnings on them currently, but they are a little strong with some gusty winds with them for sure, maybe even some small hail. But the main thing with them will be the heavy rains and also the frequent lightning that they have with it. Here's our view with the loop, and again, these are screaming off to the northeast. Those ones are moving faster than this one over here. So you kind of look out in the wide view, you'll actually kind of be able to tell the difference a bit more. And I'm going to change our radar type to get a better idea of that. So we've got our center of circulation, which is pretty much over Quincy right now. So the low is very close by, and with that, it comes with a lot of spin in the atmosphere. All these storms are able to tap into that, and that's why we have some of these storms for tornadoes on them, because there's rotation associated with them. So it's very close. That's why this one is got the warning on it. But these are moving a little bit slower here. If you kind of think about it in terms of a wheel, the inside of the wheel actually doesn't move as fast as the outside of the wheel does. So the ones over here that are closer to Indiana in our viewing area, you know, going down, like I said, from essentially Edgar County on down, that is where we have much of the faster moving storms. These ones are a little bit slower out there, but that's a little closer to where the center of circulation is. So because of that, our warning is there. So we've got, like I said, another, it goes until 3:15, so we have about 12 minutes left to go on this warning. There has been, like I said, trained storm spotters that have seen this storm. And so I'll turn the loop off, kind of go back to that warning area. And if you actually kind of look at it here, I'm going to turn the lightning off. It's essentially, it's its own little cell that was farther out ahead of the main line of storms that went tornadic. So that's kind of interesting to take note of too. If we kind of back up a little bit, you can tell that, let me move the camera around a little bit. You can see that the storm itself was its own little cell before it is now about to join up with the main line of storms. So it may lose a little bit of its rotation with that one. But let's take a look at our rotation on our velocity. And so there you go right there. You've got the bright colors there signifying that it's moving faster towards the radar, and then you've got a little bit in the way of some of the away colors showing up. So there's our rotation currently right there. This is not going to be one of your good days in terms of seeing the bright greens and the bright reds. It's not going to make a lot of sense with our velocity for today based on the setup that we have for today. A lot of our storms may actually have almost technically the same color on our velocity, and so it's going to be a little bit harder to pick up on some of those circulations, but they are there, and that's why we're watching that. Okay, so as we zoom out, we're going to turn our radar back on, and you'll notice now a little bit easier to tell that this is now a red box. So this still does go until 3:15. It still is a tornado warning, but it's actually lost its confirmed tornado aspect of it, which means that what most likely happened was that we had a fairly weak tornado that occurred, came down to the ground, and it was on the ground for a little bit, and then it's now gone back up. There's still rotation, like I just showed, with this cell, so it's not like it can't still produce a tornado, but as of right now, the trained storm spotters that are on it do not currently see a tornado on the ground with this one anymore, but it's still possible that we could see that change once again. A lot of these storms, like we've been saying, are going to have the possibility here of dropping a weak tornado fairly quick. Then the warning comes out, and then because these storms are moving pretty quickly, we either A, have the storm leave the warning box, or B, the tornado is only on the ground for a very short amount of time, and then it goes away. And so this might be very much one of these kind of one and done types of events where we have a tornado warning that pops up, and then we ride it out for the 30 minutes that it goes for, and then we may go for a little bit of some time without a tornado warning, and then we get a new one that pops back up. So all those options are still possible here with these storms. I do think, though, that out of the two areas that we can look at, the western side is going to be the bit more interesting side of the equation, because over here, these storms are a bit farther away from the center of the circulation, from the center of the low, so there's not going to be as much rotation that's possible with these storms. It's not saying that it can't happen, but the ingredients are a little bit better with this line here. The issue that we are going to have, though, is that there's not much instability out there. What I'll do is I'll turn on our, hopefully we have our temperatures in this one. Oops. Oh, no, we don't have it in this one. I'll check out a few more things here first. But we've got temperatures that are right now, for the most part, in the 70s. And so it's warm. We've got some humidity out there, but a lot of us have been pretty cloudy for today. And as a result of that, a lot of our cloud cover has kept down some of the instability that we have in our viewing area. And so as a result of that, we don't have exactly the best view here. So just clicked on the wrong one. We'll go back to our radar. So again, we have just one warning out there. It's a fairly small one for portions of Morgan County. This does go until 3:15, and it's for a storm that has radar indicated tornado capabilities with it. There's some rotation with this storm, and it's moving off now to the northeast about 40 miles an hour. So it's moving a little bit quicker now that it's kind of been swallowed up within the line of storms. Again, as we kind of back up a little bit, you can tell that this storm was once its own little cell, its own little mini supercell that had a little bit more rotation with it. And now that it's joined up with part of the line, we may not exactly have that anymore. We'll ride this out for the next 7 minutes to see where we end up. But you'll notice that it's just a line of storms that's coming on through. What I will do, though, is I will turn on our velocity, and we'll take a look at that and just kind of go down the line here with it. And you'll see with our velocity that it's all pretty uniform with the same colors here and there. We've got a lot of that green, which would be going towards the radar, which again, the radar is in Lincoln, so everything is heading that direction off to the east towards Lincoln. But if we do this, if we kind of go down to where the warning is, you've got a little bit of some more interesting colors here with that brighter color signifying faster winds going towards the radar, and a little bit of some red showing that there's some away aspects of the winds too. So right in this area there, right over the Clemens area, is going to be where our circulation is. And so what we'll do is we'll once again put a track on that. Now that these are moving a little bit faster, we'll go at 40 miles an hour off to our northeast, and we'll just kind of see what cities pop up here. So Nortonville at 310, 327 Alexander, Island Grove at 331, Prentice at 340, 343 for Ashland, Tallulah 351, Panther Creek 355, Petersburg 4 o'clock, and then Oakford 406. Again, that's if it keeps on going. A lot of these storms, they pop up, they exhibit their severe criteria, and then they are able to fade away just because the atmosphere may be able to support some quick stuff that spins up. But anything long-lasting, it's going to be a little harder to do that out there. There's been the chance that we were going to see maybe a severe thunderstorm watch or a tornado watch, and we've actually not seen any one of those just yet. And I think the reason is because the Storm Prediction Center is still just a little unsure if it's going to be warranted or not. They were still a little not as confident in throwing out a watch out here for the area just yet, because we might not actually see all that much stuff occur. It may be pretty quick stuff like this happens. So again, the reason why these tornado warnings that we're going to have seen, and probably we'll see a few more of them from here on out, is that they're moving pretty quick. Also too, these are pretty weak circulations that end up forming, and they just can't last forever. So a lot of times it's going to be very hard for these storms to continue on with a new tornado warning after a new tornado warning after a new tornado warning, and keep having the same cell produce hours worth of tornado warnings. It's going to be hard to do that with our setup today. It'll most likely be we've got these tornado warning pops up for a cell, then it weakens, maybe in a new spot, a new one pops back up. So that's kind of how things are going to be likely playing out for today. Again, if you live in the Morgan County area, so Nortonville, Clemens, Woodson, Pisgah, Arnold, Alexander, just off to the east of Jacksonville, that is where the tornado warning is. And so it was a confirmed tornado. When that happens, we have the pinkish purplish box for representing that. Right now we have a red box, which signifies that while there is still a tornado warning here, there is not a confirmed tornado on the ground. We do not have a confirmed tornado on the ground anymore with this storm. That was outside of our viewing area for this tornado warned storm. Looks like it did a little bit of some damage in Greene County, which is outside of our viewing area. But as I keep on watching here, I don't really see a whole lot. Okay, as soon as I said that there's no tornado watch, we actually do have a tornado watch. So this goes out until 9 o'clock tonight. So it was issued legit like 40 seconds ago. So let me change up. Let me find this graphic here, and I have to change that for everybody here. So hold on. Okay. All right, I need to open up a new thing here. So this is the beauty of live streaming. I've got to open up something else to get that graphic to go out there. And so we have 2 minutes left of this tornado warning. It is most likely going to expire, and when it expires, it's most likely going to either A, not have any more warnings, or B, we'll get a new warning out of it, which would most likely begin to go north of I-72, should that be the case. So I still need to kind of watch things here. All right. You're going to see this pop up here. This is going to be behind the scenes stuff. So it's not a dense fog advisory anymore. It is a tornado watch. And that goes until 9 p.m. Okay, so you've got, here's the viewing area. We've got most of the viewing area within this tornado watch that goes until 9 o'clock tonight. So we are still anticipating there being a bit more in the way of some active weather here for us, but I do have some additional things to pass along because now I think we are getting a new tornado warning that just popped up. So let me open this up here on my new show, and we'll go from there. So we're going to have, I think, a new tornado warning that went for Sangamon County, and that is the case there. So we've got still a tornado warning that is now in place for Sangamon County. So this one will now go until 3:45. So this one goes until 3:45 for Morgan and Sangamon counties. Let me check out some more information here. And at this point, what I'm likely going to do here is give this information, and then I may actually need to begin to break in onto TV here because we've got Sangamon County involved in it. So this is located near Alexander, 7 miles southeast of Jacksonville, moving at 40 miles an hour off to our northeast. And still it is a tornado warning, but there has been no confirmation of anything on the ground with this one like there was earlier. So we still do have to watch out for that to change over potentially. But as of right now, it's just a tornado warning because of radar indicated rotation with it. I'm going to turn off the satellite, turn off the lightning, and I'm going to go to my palettes there. There we go. So there we go with that. Here's our velocity. And again, you can still see that we have this area kind of right over the Pisgah area there. Right there is where our rotation is, and that's moving off to the northeast at about 40 miles an hour. So, guys, do you mind, how quick do you think we can get onto TV?
How quick can we get on the TV?
Yep. A little behind the scenes stuff here. So we're going to try to switch that up. So while they're figuring that out, we're good to go?
We're getting it.
Okay. All right, they're still kind of getting some stuff set up here in the background. I got to change a few things here once it happens, but we'll keep on going with our stream here because I know you're watching on here. We're going to get on TV here in just a moment. So we've got our velocity pulled up right now, and I've got the track from where the velocity center is, where that rotation is, and it goes for 40 miles because that's about how fast this thing is moving. Okay, let me switch something here. Actually, you can just go ahead and you can go ahead now. Yep. I think we're good now. So what we're going to see is that we have, with these velocity signatures, with these lines of storms like this, they don't exactly look to be all the absolute best. There's not these large areas of the green and the reds, and they make that shape that we all look for. Sometimes it's a little harder to see with these types of little lines of storms, but we do still have some circulation that is visible pretty much on I-72 right now between the Arnold and Alexander areas. We've got the reds color there away, surrounded by the greens, shows that we do have some indication of rotation there. So that's going to be one thing that we're going to look out for still with these storms as these move off to the northeast. These storms have been pretty short-lived. A lot of times they just have one warning with them and they go away. This storm has actually had a few warnings with it, and as we turn it back to our regular radar, we can kind of talk about why that's the case. These storms, or this storm especially, a little bit ago, was actually its own cell. So it was its own little mini supercell that was able to exhibit the rotation, actually did produce a confirmed tornado starting just outside of our viewing area, coming on into Morgan County. And then as we've now go closer to now, with today's time right now, as you can tell, it kind of got swallowed up by the actual line itself. So there's still some rotation. We still have some rotation with that, but we are still going to see that still being the case. I hear in my ear that we actually have some pictures that Jacob's got, and so this is a picture of the tornado that's got the warning on it, probably from a little earlier on. I'm assuming that would be from the Morgan County area, but near Winston Wells. So that is a picture there. So I didn't realize Jacob was back in town. Well, he's been on vacation. So if he's getting these pictures because he's chasing, he loves to chase. So we got that picture there, great picture that you can see there of these storms. And so we do have the one warning. These have not really been anything too intense in terms of having multiple warnings out at the same time. It's kind of been one warning followed by another one a little bit later. We have more storms that are out there, but they are not exhibiting any of the severe criteria that we kind of look for. Most of these storms that we've got off to the east are now basically on the Indiana line currently. I'm going to turn velocity on for those to show you those, and you'll see that there's really not a whole lot going on there with our velocity in terms of seeing anything too specific. There's a little bit of some rotation here and there, but for the most part, though, it's really all been with our warning back off to the west. So again, I'll put another track on it. This thing is moving at around 40 miles an hour off to our northeast. I'm going to put it right there where that center is of that rotation. And yeah, we'll go about that speed. So again, Alexander's pretty much there right now, 325. Make sure you're in your safe spot. Ashland at 340, Tallulah 347, Newmansville 351, Petersburg, if it gets that far, at 356. Oakford at 401, Greenview at 406, Salt Creek 413, Mason City 418, and Eckerd at 422. Again, it's only if this thing is able to survive. Sometimes it might be hard to do because of the fact that this storm kind of got swallowed up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of zoom in on this area of velocity, kind of go back in time a little bit better. You can kind of see that the colors may not exactly all that line up, but there was a nice little rotation couplet there, a little velocity couplet there, and kind of going back further, it was still there. And then now where we are at right now, it's still there, especially right in the beginning of the warning as it crossed over 72. It looked to be pretty impressive right there, but now it's not exactly all that good looking, but you still do have it right there, pretty much right on the interstate between Arnold and Alexander. That right there is where our would-be tornado would be if there was one, especially kind of right there at the couple of pixels that are right there along I-72, that showing that we've got some of the fastest winds that are going, in this case, towards the radar, which would be up in Lincoln. So that right there is where it would be. And so we are watching this area here, how it keeps on looking as it moves off to the northeast. That's going to be key here to see if we have any more warnings continue out of this. But in this area right there is where we'd be looking out for our tornado to be there, again, between the Arnold and Alexander area, and it would be very close to that Illinois Highway 123, potentially passing over it as it's east of Sinclair. So that's going to be our best spot to see any more in the way of any development there. But that is what we have currently. In terms of our radar, you've got some heavy rains that are associated with this. And this is what we would call a QLCS tornado. A quasi-linear is what we call it in the weather world, and it's convective system. And so what we have here is essentially linear means line, and so it's not exactly a straight line, but there are little kinks here and there that can provide us with a little bit of some extra rotation. And you can kind of see that right now, even on this base view here with our reflectivity. You've just got I kind of got that little squiggle line right there to show that it's not exactly straight. And so when you've got little notches in and out like that, you can tend to see some rotation, and that's what we have with this one. Again, this storm that created the warning actually was its own cell just a little bit ago before it got swallowed up by the main line. It formed ahead of the line. It was actually a mini supercell, and then it got swallowed up into the main line, but it still does have some of its rotation aspects with it, and that's why we are still starting to see it there. Still got our little couplet kind of now passing over the interstate, so now it's just going to be just off to the northwest of the Alexander area. So right here, this area right there, and that's been moving pretty quickly. Our warnings, they haven't exactly lasted for all that long. Our warning, this one for example, goes until 3:45. So these warnings aren't lasting for very long because of essentially two reasons. Number one, these storms are moving very fast, and sometimes they actually move fast enough to leave the warning box, leave the warning polygon before that time comes. Another instance where we could have it will be the fact that it just gets a little weaker, and it weakens before the warning is actually done. So we just had a new little update with that, and what I'm going to do is just turn my squiggle off there, and they've essentially now made it a little bit of a smaller warning box now. So it is still mainly for the Morgan County area, but it does include a little bit of some Sangamon County. Again, zooming out here a little bit more, you've got Springfield there in the middle of Sangamon County and New Berlin right there on the edge. This will be passing just off to the west of the New Berlin area. But it's moving off to the northeast about 40 miles an hour, still with that radar indicated rotation, which again you can see pretty clearly there on our velocity. Sometimes our velocity in situations like today, like I said earlier, may not be textbook looking with how it looks, but because today's a little bit interesting with that low not that far away, we have to kind of look at things a little bit differently sometimes. So I'm going to turn our radar back on. I'm going to turn a different type of radar on top of it and zoom way out here. So just to give you a wide view of where everything is, here's our viewing area, and we have these storms rotating in on from majority of the directions coming in from the south and southwest direction. You've got essentially all these storms going around a low, and they're kind of pinwheeling around this low, which you can clearly tell is being seen on the radar kind of just south of the Quincy area. You can see where the rain showers are able to kind of pinwheel around this low, and that is where we have our center of circulation. So this tornado warning is very close to the center of that low. And a lot of times, if you think about it with a wheel, the inside of the wheel when it spins actually slightly slower than the outside does. And that's why the outside, these storms that are farther off to the distance, those ones are spinning much faster. They're going through there about 45, 50 miles an hour off to the northeast. This one is moving at a slightly slower pace, coming in at around 40 miles an hour. And it's moving a bit more in the way of a easterly direction, not so much straight to the north like they are off to the east. But still just have the one warning here. We have that one going for about another 15 more minutes. Again, we've got just off to the north of the I-72. So I'm going to change my radar, turn that one back off, stop looping it, and show you some lightning here. With that area of circulation, it's a little stronger there, as it makes sense because we have a warning. There's a little bit more in the way of some lightning there. Other spots do have some lightning across the viewing area, include pretty much along the Indiana and Illinois state line. Our essentially eastern column of counties have most of the thunderstorm activity there, and it's essentially going from Danville down to the south all the way past Robinson, essentially, is what we have in terms of our best coverage area and widespread shower and storm activity. Everything else, again, a little bit more spotty. You got some more spotty storms by the DeWitt and DeLand area, just off to the west of Monticello. But most of our activity in terms of the widespread rain showers and storms is essentially kind of right there on Illinois 1, US 150, and kind of east of there, right there between the highway and the state line. Back off to the west, again, here's our line of storms. Our line of storms is just that one spot where there's a little bit more lightning strikes, and that happens to be where we have our tornado warning. Again, we'll put a track on that. Turn our velocity on to see what it looks like. And our area of rotation doesn't look to be as totally impressive as it was before, but there it is right there, essentially kind of in the center of the county there. I'm going to check on a few more things to see if I've got any new information. National Weather Service got a report of a funnel cloud about 11 minutes ago near the Franklin area, and so it was unsure if it was touching down. So this storm is definitely capable of producing tornadoes. It's got the rotation with it. The funnel cloud potentially could be seen there with that. But as of right now, no trained spotters have actually determined whether or not it's on the ground, but it could happen at any time, and that's why we always want to stress that you are in your safe spot. I'm going to delete this line, and we'll put a track on it now. Again, from that area right in the middle of the county, or right in the middle of that polygon, is where we'll put it there. Okay, moving off to the northeast at about 40 miles an hour. You've got 340 for Prentice, Ashland at 343, Ashland at 351, Tallulah at 351, Newmansville 355, Petersburg 401, Oakford 406, Greenview 412, arrival time for Salt Creek 419, Mason City 424, and Topeka, if it holds together, until 430. So as of right now, it looks like this might be cycling through a little bit. It doesn't look to have as much of the nice intense area of colors that we normally would see with a little bit more of a better organized velocity couplet. So we'll kind of go back in time a little bit, and looked a little bit better there. But we just got a new warning that came out because I think as soon as I said that, they just got a report from maybe that funnel cloud may have actually touched the ground. And so it's now observed. So here we go with that one. So even though it doesn't look to be the best on velocity, it still is enough to produce a confirmed tornado on the ground for Cass, Menard, Morgan counties, and a little bit of Sangamon counties until 4:15. Let me click on go to my email and get a little bit more information out of that, because we'll see a little bit more information come from that one. So again, it goes until 4:15. We've got it for Western Menard County, Central Sangamon County, West Central Sangamon County, Southeastern Cass County, and in the northeastern corner of Morgan County. What I'll do here is kind of zoom out. Again, it looks a little messy. This is our velocity view because that's where we're able to see some of that circulation. Here, for example, is what it looks like on the radar. And so this one goes until 4:15. So this is now a little bit of a longer duration tornado warning. Normally these have been kind of quick ones where they're coming in around 20 to 30 minutes. This one now is pushing 45 minutes. So what has happened is that they've got a confirmed tornado that was located near Ashland, or 12 miles southeast of Virginia, moving north at 40 miles an hour. So again, we'll do another track on that one. We'll go right from the base of the warning because it's going to be our best spot for it. And again, going to the northeast at 40 miles an hour. Puts us, again, 342 in the Prentice area, Ashland at 346, Tallulah 353, Petersburg 402, Oakford 407, Greenview 412, arrival time for Salt Creek 419, Mason City 424, New Holland at 427, and Quiver at 432. We do have, again, the rotation still being seen with this one. It's not exactly the most impressive looking, but sometimes it doesn't need to be all that good looking for it to still count. And what we've got here, just a little bit there, you can kind of tell, the colors don't look to be, again, like I've been saying earlier, the colors aren't exactly your typical classic look, but they're like kind of right over the Yatesville area, just to the southwest of the Ashland area, heading that direction. That is where our center of circulation is right there. So that's where we have a little bit of the darker fall off with our colors, and the brighter colors right there is where we have our circulation, and that is going to be where we have our confirmed tornado. That'll be moving off to the northeast at around 40 miles an hour. What the National Weather Service did was that they they actually put in this warning for a little bit of a longer duration. So like I said, these normally have been a little bit shorter than 45 minutes, but the reason for that is that a lot of these storms have been moving very quickly off to our north and northeast direction. 40 miles an hour is pretty fast. And so a lot of times these storms will essentially outrun the warning where they actually leave the box, and they would have to be prompted to issue a new tornado warning if that were to be the case. So they gave us a bigger one to allow time for this thing to move through the polygon and not have to keep on reissuing new and newer tornado warnings. They'll obviously trim things here and there, but that is what we expect with this. Again, this is the only warning in town. I'll turn on our radar, and we've got a lot of coverage area of rain showers that are now essentially right now on the state line. Essentially from Terre Haute off up to I-74 is where we have most of our coverage area of heavy rain, and it's now moving into Indiana. Here's what it looks like on the loop, and it's moving off to the north-northeast direction, leaving the viewing area going into Indiana. We've got a fairly quiet area that is in between these two spots, and then we have more storms that are developing along this line. And this is the line right here where our warning is that is kind of our best chance of seeing severe weather today. That's going to be our best chance of seeing the storms, because if I change my radar and put it on the different type here, you can actually tell that the low that is spinning through and is creating these storms, the low itself is kind of right south of Quincy. It's a larger area than obviously a circulation for a tornado warning, but this is still a pretty compact low. It's still a compact system that's moving through, and that's why it's been so windy today and yesterday. And so this low is passing on through, and it's being able to spin up these storms. And since this tornado warning is so close to the actual center of the low, there's a lot of available vorticity and rotation that we can use to make a tornado warning. So these storms are able to rotate pretty quickly, even if other atmospheric ingredients that we need for tornado warnings and other types of severe weather may not be there as in great detail. It's still there. Do notice though that this does take us to the northern edge of our viewing area, so it's potentially possible that this one would then leave the viewing area here in about 45 minutes. It's also possible too that this is able to weaken a bit more. I'm going to check a few more things. Getting reports of another possible area of circulation just to the west-northwest of Berlin. Broad rotation is seen on the radar there. Macon County is probably looking at that time. So we're still looking at some areas of rotation. We'll put our velocity back on because it's going to be our best tool for this. So the New Berlin area there is along the interstate, and the National Weather Service is also kind of noticing this area right there where there's a little bit more in the way of rotation. Again, like I've said, this is not exactly going to be looking to be a textbook type of day with our velocity because of the way that these storms are moving and how close that low is. So these are moving more off to the north and northeast direction instead of more of a easterly direction. So because of that, it may not look exactly the best on our velocity, but even if they're still within the same color range, like you've got the brighter colors where I've circled it, surrounded by just more of the greens around it, that still is enough to create, that still is a circulation, and it still is enough to potentially create a funnel cloud, if not even a tornado. So that's still going to be something we'll look out for as we go through the rest of our day. And also still too, as we kind of zoom out and kind of go along the actual initial line of the storms, every once in a while you get a little bit of a notch that is able to occur. So right now we have a little bit of one kind of by the Newmansville area that could turn into something potentially down the line if things were to keep on going. Kind of zooming farther out now, once you get to around the Havana area, you've got the reds and the greens close to each other, which is a little bit more textbook. And occasionally you can have some weak circulation points within those if it's not exactly a straight line. But for the most part though, things look to be right here. And in fact, it's kind of right over the Ashland area now. It's a pretty broad area of circulation, but right where you've got those few red pixels right there, I'm going to circle those for you, just right there in the Ashland area. That right there is where we're going to have most likely the tornado that still does have a confirmed tornado tag on it with it. So they kind of just arranged the warning polygons in a way that it's going to keep going. A confirmed tornado was located over Ashland or 12 miles east of Virginia, moving northeast at 40 miles an hour. So essentially right over Ashland right now. If you live there, please be in your safe spot. You've also got, again, multiple communities down the line, which we will now show with our track. And these are all moving off to the northeast at about 40 miles an hour. Again, I'm going to keep the velocity on that. It looks really weird with these purples and these reds showing up here, but again, that's with how windy it is just in general out there. But I'm going to keep it on our velocity because that's where really we're looking at for our the reason why we have the warning is because of that rotation. So the Ashland area, 343 or essentially right now. Tallulah, 349. Petersburg, 358. Oakford at 404. Greenview, 409. Salt Creek, 416. Mason City, 421. Quiver at 430. San Jose at 433. And Manito at 438. Again, it's if it goes that direction. That takes it pretty far away, as you can tell on this polygon. It takes it actually technically behind this banner. So it's going to go for a little bit of some time if it's able to hold together. Right now our warning does go until 3:45. I'm going to delete all that out, change it back to our radar, and then I'm going to put our information up there. So again, this is a tornado warning that is confirmed. That's why it's this pink color, pinkish purple color, and it goes until 4:15 for Cass, Menard, and Sangamon counties within the viewing area. We do expect this to be probably passing over the river at around that 4:15 time, so we still got essentially a little over 45 minutes until that happens, but it is moving pretty quickly off to the northeast there, and so that's why they gave us a longer, kind of bigger warning box to allow some time for this to travel through the warning polygon. That way the National Weather Service doesn't have to keep on issuing warning after warning after warning. They can just use this one and then trim it. So here's what we have on the wide view. Our low is spinning off to our west, and we've got storms that are approaching many communities on the eastern side of our viewing area and now moving into Indiana. Those storms are, like I said, moving into Indiana, so therefore really no longer our concern. There was no warnings with those ever. There was some obviously heavy rain. We'll turn the lightning on, and you've got a decent amount of lightning with it, but besides that, there just wasn't enough in the way of rotation to really get anything too strong. Some gusty winds were for sure possible, but just didn't have the criteria to get these types of warnings like we have over here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop looping it and zoom on back into the warning area, and you'll notice that there's really not much lightning with this. We just have that one bolt there between Newmansville and Ashland. Got a new one there just off to the southwest of Pleasant Plains. So there's not a lot of lightning with these storms that have the rotation on them. So, and that happens sometimes. It's just not exactly your typical type of severe weather setup, and that makes sense because it's October. You know, it's October 11th. We're pretty far now into fall. Typically when we get severe weather, things look a little different. And in this case, it's because the low, the center of circulation, the low pressure center is not that far away, and it's able to essentially spin these storms up, and because these storms are so close to the actual low, which is going to be right here, there's my big L, right there, that is where the low is, and that's not that far away. So we've got it actually relatively close to that center of circulation, so there's a bit more in the way of ingredients for severe weather that can overcompensate for other ingredients that are not likely as good. So for example, it's been kind of cloudy today. We haven't had a lot of sunshine. We have a little bit less instability compared to normal, but we have a lot of vorticity and a lot of spin that we can use to create some rotating thunderstorms because the low is not that far away, and that's how we're able to get another warning out of that. So that's kind of the science and the background behind that one. But once again, go back to our radar, and I'll turn off my zoom here. I'll turn off my loop. And so again, right by the Ashland area, Tallulah, Newmansville, Petersburg, even Bobtown right there, kind of right there on the edge, that is going to be one of the spots that we would look out for making sure that you're in your safe spot in your house. Let's take a look at our velocity because that's going to be our best bet to see stuff there. And we've got a little bit of some velocity rotation showing up. Really now it doesn't look to be very good. In fact, kind of going back a few frames, it looked pretty good there, right by the Ashland area, and then right when it passed over Ashland, it's not that good. Now it's still present. You've got you've got some pixels there that are within that showing some of the red coloration there. So there is still some rotation there for sure, just maybe not looking as good as what it once did. We'll also take a look at our debris tracker, and there's not anything showing up there with that. If we were to see something, it would have been right there. There would have been something right there, a little bit of a different color showing up there, and that's not the case. But what we can do is we can go back and see if there was anything there once there was a confirmed tornado out of it. So let me kind of adjust my view, move it down, and then kind of go backwards there. And so doesn't really look to be very impressive there. There's maybe a pixel here or there as it went over the Ashland area, but then it's kind of gone. So not anything too impressive there on a debris tracker. That's a good thing. It's a very good thing. But our velocity is really what we're kind of watching for with this. And again, it's there still. It's just not looking to be as well defined, but that's okay because the way that this is all set up with this line of storms and the low that's just off to the west, it sometimes does not look to be textbook with our velocity. So this right here is still enough, even though it doesn't look great, it's still enough in this instance to continue on with having a confirmed tornado report. Checking a few more things here to see if I got any more new information on it. All right, and so they're looking at a few spots there, and actually, what has happened is, let me switch my marker here. What's actually happened is this. If we step back in time a little bit with our velocity, this area kind of just off to the one that was coming into the Pleasant Plains region, it's kind of surged ahead there and kind of given us this little spot right there. Let me circle it once again. This area right there where it's now brighter colors there, that might be potentially where a new tornado warning would take off from, be based off of from that one, and potentially have it turn a bit more farther off to the east. Maybe that's what ends up happening there, based on how the area of velocity is kind of moving into the Tallulah area right there, that might end up being the case where essentially the warning box would have to get shifted over a little bit more to the east. We'll have to see what the National Weather Service does out of that and their decision-making skills with that one, but that's a possibility that we could see with that. But again, this would be, approaching the river there, we'd be looking at it getting, essentially at that point, pretty close to getting out of the viewing area. But that is what we still have right now. So we still have our tornado warning. Still has a confirmed tornado tag on it that goes until 4:15. So we are still talking 27 minutes from now. And we'd be looking at this to... It's moving pretty quickly, though, for sure. So one of the things that has been kind of nice about this warning that they gave us was that it was a longer warning, and it allows the storm to continue to move through the warning box without having to issue a whole bunch of new ones. And so that's good news there, to where it could potentially be moving fast enough to where it gets out of our viewing area. But there, it's definitely right there. You've got it, and it makes sense, too. It's also the area that's strongest. You've got the rotation there with it. You've got some lightning strikes. There's not a lot of it, but it's there. And then you've got much more spotty nature in the middle, and then kind of that first line of storms that's over now into Indiana mainly. There's obviously rain showers along the border, but the heaviest rain is now into Indiana. So there's a few little cells that we have in the middle here. And in the middle, you've got the potential there still for some of these to continue to maybe show some spin. These are all very, very small little cells that are popping up, but a lot of times when they're by themselves, they're able to kind of go and have a little bit of a more favorable environment for them. So we'll see if we have any more development of these storms. To recap everything, though, we have a tornado watch that goes until 9 o'clock tonight for most of the viewing area. It does not include Macoupin, Montgomery, Fayette, Jasper, or Crawford counties. So this is where we are currently at right now with our tornado watch. And so we have to essentially wait for this line to pass through. Once this line passes through, then at that point, we'd be looking at a much more quiet night. The fact that it's only 350 right now does show you that this is probably not going to last very long. This is probably not going to be one of those long-term events where it goes well into the nighttime hours. In fact, with the tornado watch going until 9 o'clock, that also helps to balance that out too. We have a slight risk from the Storm Prediction Center. This is essentially for that tornado threat that we have out there. And you'll see that high winds are also a possibility with a lot of these storms, but the tornadoes are not zero, and that's kind of really more where our attention is placed anyways because of the fact that the low is as close as it is to the viewing area. And I'll turn that on right here. So as we once again look at the wide view of things, we have the low, which is spinning essentially south of Quincy. Here's the low itself right there. And so that's not very far away from our tornado warning. So these storms are able to really have a lot of rotation with them, even if there's not much in the way of instability or anything like that. And so we're able to have some parameters overcompensate for other lower parameters that may not necessarily be all that good. Of note, so it's kind of interesting right now, we'll kind of zoom back in and let me computer froze. Just give me a second here. There we go. We have a new tornado warning. It's actually a new confirmed tornado warning kind of by the Havana area there. Obviously outside of our viewing area, but still noteworthy nonetheless, just because the fact that conditions are still favorable for these to still keep on producing tornado warnings. We've got the velocity up from Lincoln, and you'll see that, again, even though this is outside of our viewing area, I just want to kind of show you the fact that that does not look very impressive at all, but there's just that little itty-bitty notch right there. That's all it takes in this situation. That's all it takes to put a tornado on the ground on a day like today. So that's why we have the confirmed tornado still out there for us and our viewing area. Just want to give you that. Just want to show you that quick little update there. So as we go back down to our south, back into our viewing area. Okay, computer is still a little slow. It'll get there. There it goes. We still do have the tornado warning there. The velocity now looks to be a lot less noticeable. As we kind of go back in time, you got it kind of right there along the Tallulah area, and now, if anything, you've got the stronger winds kind of on the line of the actual tornado warning. So check the National Weather Service and see what they say. Nope, they're just looking at that new tornado warning that they got. So for us here, we're still kind of waiting on some new information on this tornado warning. It's obviously been a very warm day today. We had not a lot of instability, but it's been warm enough definitely to create conditions that are favorable for severe weather. We'll turn our radar back on. And you've got these little cells that have popped up in the viewing area too ahead of the line. And actually, we'll turn velocity back on with these because these are sometimes interesting to see. There might be some little itty-bitty rotation that comes out of these. Okay, that loads up. There it goes. So there's not really a whole lot there to be looking at, but still, nonetheless, even when it's all the same color, you can sometimes get areas that do have some rotation in there, but these are very, very small cells. These probably aren't even big enough to have really their own rotation associated with them. Lightning, they don't even have any lightning with them really either. And you got a couple of those cells there by the Farmer City area, by DeWitt. You've got Champaign County here with some more in the way of rain showers and some storms in Vermilion County still because all those storms are closer in Indiana. They got another severe thunderstorm warning in Indiana over there because those storms are now getting a little stronger there. But really, right now, we've got kind of this big gap with these storms. We have this big area right here. And so what we're able to see potentially would be maybe some additional redevelopment of some extra storms, essentially kind of connected the line there, potentially down that direction. Not possible or not impossible, but as of right now, it might not be exactly the best because this is already kind of worked over, and this is already a worked over environment down where my line is. you also get a little farther away from the low itself, so there might not be enough there to keep it going in terms of the severe threat. So let's go back to our warning. I'll erase my line, stop it looping, and we'll go back to our warning. And again, you've got our warning that goes until 4:15, so technically it goes for another 20 minutes. I think it's going to leave the area a little bit faster than that, but that still is the case there. Check a few more things. Okay. So we can still check out our velocity here and just get an idea about where things are. It's still kind of a broad area there, but we've got those really bright colors just kind of by the Lewisburg area, south of Petersburg. That's essentially the rotation that's right there. That's going to be where it is. Technically, there's also some minor circulation right there too, but there's really not a whole lot of it left over there in this area. Not necessarily saying that that's going to be a bad thing for more tornadoes, because sometimes all you need is just a little bit of velocity when we're talking about a setup like this with the low being as close as it is. So sometimes it doesn't take much or textbook look on our velocity to still keep it going. But what we'll do is we'll still turn our radar back on, zoom back out a little bit, and then put a track on it. Again, moving to the northeast at 40 miles an hour, which is going to take it out of the viewing area pretty shortly here. Yeah, so we're really looking only like at Petersburg within the next 5 minutes at 4:01, Curtis at 4:07, and then at this point, Crane Creek, Mason City, Forest City, it's out of our viewing area now at this point. And so we'd be in the clear for us here in central Illinois within our viewing area TV market. But we've got some tornado warnings that are popping up. We've got one north of us in the Lewistown area there, but really for the most part now, this will be moving pretty quickly. It'll exit the area. Once it does, we can then cut out. You've got some additional storms that have popped up here, kind of between Bloomington and Champaign. There's not really a lot going on with that. There's definitely maybe the possibility that some of them could, the way they're moving there, maybe have some weak circulation, some weak, maybe even a funnel cloud is possible out of that. But a lot of what we're seeing on our velocity just isn't enough really for really anything. But we'll still keep an eye on things as we always do. But really, it's always been along the line itself. And so here we go. Kind of a new update there. This is now no longer a confirmed tornado on the ground anymore. This is now a tornado warning, but it's capable of producing a tornado. It doesn't have that tornado spotted tag with it anymore. Again, it goes until 4:15 for Menard County. And still moving to the northeast at 40 miles an hour. So it's that timing that I just showed there is going to be essentially the same. And once it gets out of our viewing area, then we'll be able to go to have See I Living go here. But as of right now, kind of going down the line of the storms themselves, there's not a whole lot of additional areas of really anything that speaks out to me. There still is a couple spots that do have a little bit of some little notches here and there if you really want to focus in on some small localized spots. We get those little areas where there's a little bit of a darker green and a lighter green. There's some circulation that is occurring there, but there's not a lot of it. But that's pretty much it in terms of what we have for our warnings. Everything else is either in Indiana or outside of our viewing area north of us in Illinois. Just have the one warning for Menard County, and still capable of producing a tornado located over Petersburg, and is moving 16 miles southwest of Mason City, moving northeast at 40. So it's going to be getting out of here pretty quickly, and we'll show the future track. We've not actually done much of that today with it, and you'll see that. Let me back it up. What we have here is really not looking at anything lasting too long here. For example, here's 8 o'clock, and pretty much everything at this point is out of the viewing area. There's also, you can tell too, less in the way of yellows, oranges, and reds showing up, and it's kind of more greens. So we probably will be looking at more of just a just some rain showers still spinning through. Can't rule out some embedded thunderstorms here and there, but really at this point, it's got to be this line of storms that we're looking at right now to produce the warnings, because if it's not it, there's nothing else that comes in behind it. Kind of zooming back out again, there's just not much development. And you can see it on the satellite that our rain showers are trying to form kind of on the southern part of the low. But you can see the spin clearly from the kind of the Quincy area and southward. That's where our low is. Our tornado warnings very close to the low itself. And that's why we do have tornado warnings and not the farther one in Indiana where it's a severe thunderstorm warning. Okay, so what we're going to do here is watch things here on social media for the next few minutes. This is going to be exiting the viewing area here pretty quickly, and so we're going to go and have CI Living start up here in just a few moments. If we get any more tornado warnings that pop up, we'll break in and do what we have to do, but I think at this point right now we're going to continue things on social media for the last few minutes here, and then you can go back to your programming, and then like I said, anything else happens, we'll pop back in. So we'll send it now back to WCIA for their coverage, and you can still watch on social media for updates on this as it moves through Menard County. Have a good day. All right, everybody, if you're still listening here, we've got CI Living going, and it's a small tornado warning to where I'm likely going to just let it run because it's going to be out of our viewing area here pretty quickly. And once that happens, we'll cut back in if we need to for anything else. What I'm going to do is likely just keep the stream going, have everything silent, and just have the loop of the radar going for you. So if you don't hear anybody talking, it's because I'm not going to be doing any talking there. So I'm gonna do that right now. I'm just going to turn on my microphone, and we're going to do that right now.